Michael Nibs enjoying a bit of drifting action there through the penultimate corner, also getting some heat into the tyres. He will line up second on the grid for this one then, with Jack Brewer on the pole position. Jack Brewer, who therefore takes an early championship lead. Jack Brewer last year was 7th place in the MX-5 Championship, a series won by Joe Wiggin in 2020. Ollie Allwood was 2nd and Mike Comber was 3rd, but neither Wiggin or Comber have returned this year, so Ollie Allwood arguably starts the season as the pre-season favourite. And managed to log some good points yesterday with a 3rd place finish. I suppose living up to that reputation to an extent, although Michael Nibs and Jack Brewer beating wasn't in the script. Nibs was top 10 in the points last year, but Michael Nibs, who's also out racing in the Super Cup, as we've documented already, has been a busy boy. He's certainly got a lot of track time under his belt this weekend, but in very different cars, actually. You'd think, both being MX-5s, that the Mark 1 and Mark 3 car would handle very similarly, but Mark 1's a lot more compliant, a lot easier to drive, especially in the wet conditions. Mark 3s have a tendency to snap sideways on you and send you off the track, whereas the Mark 1's a lot more drivable, it seems. You still have to concentrate, though, in these conditions. You've got to find the grip not always on the traditional racing line in the wet, remember, where the rubber has been laid down on the track. That rubber gets very wet when it gets very slippery when it's wet, and yields a lot less grip than the outside of the corners. So if you see people taking some very wayward lines through the turns, don't panic. That is, in theory, where the grip should be, although on this relatively new surface, not sure how much of an effect that will have. Jack Brewer then, the yellow 93 car on pole. 82, Michael Nibs alongside him, with Ollie Allwood and Steve Foden row 2, and a few drivers to watch for potentially further back. Stuart Simmons in the one of many AB Motorsport run cars, number 88. He should be one to watch from 9th on the grid, white and purple car. But generally speaking, all of the drivers were expected to be quick, were quick yesterday, and so they are at the front of the grid. Brian Trott, the green and white car that you can see there on the 4th row, he also underperformed yesterday. You'd have to say 8th place for him. Lights go out though. We're away and racing for the second time this weekend here at Croft, and the rush towards Clervaux begins with Jack Brewer and Michael Nibs going door to door for the race lead. Brewer on the inside, Nibs on the outside line. Who's going to be bravest on the brakes? Is Michael Nibs, who sends it into Clervaux. Can he stop the car? Well, sort of. Splashes his way through the puddle. He's going to try and find the grip on the outside and succeeds, and gets the lead away from Jack Brewer then as they head through the first few corners. And there's the usual scrabbling for grip further back, and someone spun in the middle of the road. Hopefully they're avoided. That's the 155 car, which, yes, just about everybody misses. George King having started right slap bang in the middle of the grid, 19th of 40 drivers. Thankfully not collected. I think he did that all by himself as well. Nibs then with the lead, Brewer 2nd, Allwood 3rd, and Ollie Graham there in 4th position. Fraser Fennick, the 263, is on the inside of Steve Foden, who has lost ground at the start. I think Steve lost a couple of places at the start of yesterday's race as well. And that old yellow car is Adam Craig, who started 12th, and he too appears to have gained a bit of ground in the first few corners. Oh, Nibs on the curb, gets very sideways out of the Jim Clark S's. Jack Brewer sees a chance maybe to get past Michael, who's certainly a flamboyant driver. Exciting to watch is Michael Nibs. But that was maybe a bit too exciting. Those painted curbs are like ice in the wet. You want to stay away from them if you can, especially through the high-speed sections. So through goes the 13 car there in the middle of the pack at the head of the field. I saw Brian Trott making progress. Yeah, Trott's into 4th now, ahead of Oliver Graham, and Steve Foden coming with him as well in the black and gold 77 car. So Oliver Graham, after a strong start, slipping backwards now. Allwood's up the inside of Jack Brewer for 2nd. That one didn't work, and so Brian Trott now tries to draw alongside him. Brian Trott looking a lot racier this afternoon than he was yesterday. He's up into 4th place already from 8th on the grid. Lap 1 then in the books. It's Michael Nibs that leads, Jack Brewer 2nd, Allwood 3rd, Trott 4th, 5th place for Steve Foden. 6th position is Fraser Fennick, and that's the battle we're kind of watching here actually, because Foden's going to the outside of Brian Trott for 4th position, and Trott fends him off, but they're all stacking up behind the leader really, aren't they? You've got Jason Graytrex in there too. Started 7th in the red and white number 33. He's in 8th position at the end of the opening lap. So down into Tower Corner we go. Have we lost anyone on the first lap? No, they've all made it through. Impressive stuff, given the fact there are 40 cars on the grid. Ollie Allwood again to the outside of Jack Brewer for second position, almost pushing him round Tower. Of course, you go in on that tight line to defend, and that means you've really got to slow the car down on the apex to stop the car that's attacking you from getting the better exit. So Brewer sort of backs Allwood up into Brian Trott. They make their way out through the far end of the track once again. Lap number 2 then in this 20-minute second round of the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Championship. Wet conditions not putting them off at all, and Brian Trott has clearly got his car set up well for these conditions. A lovely move there at the inside of Ollie Allwood for third, and Brian Trott is on a march to the front now in that AB Motorsport car. Gets himself past his teammate, actually, Allwood there. Jack Brewer ahead now. These drivers, of course, had a bit more time to select their setup. Once the rain came in about half an hour or so ago, they would have been able to react to that maybe and just soften the suspension a bit. And that, I think, is something Brian Trott has got absolutely right. He tries to get up the inside of Brewer now into the hairpin. Fifth place, look, changing hands there. Fraser Fennick up the inside of Steve Foden. He just eases Foden onto the grass, and look at the way that Foden couldn't get the power down. Loses a place to... that was Greatrex, wasn't it? Jason Greatrex, who's got himself past Oliver Graham on that lap. There was a lot of shuffling there. Actually, Graham's fallen down to 8th position behind Foden, but also behind Fraser Fennick, who's got past a lot of them. Fraser Fennick into 5th position now. Brian Trott, though, even, is the man most likely, you'd say, to win this race. I know he's only 3rd at the moment, but the way he's carving through the order, like the proverbial hot knife through butter, is pretty incredible at the moment. He's come from 8th on the grid to 3rd. He's in the wheel tracks now of 2nd place man Jack Brewer as they go into the braking zone at Tower Corner. The car snaking around under braking. So easy to snatch a break into that corner, even in the dry. When it's wet and slippery, it's an even more perilous part of the track. But Brian Trott saved it. Comes out of the Tower Corner, still in that 3rd position. Top 4 cars covered by a second at the start of the lap, but Brewer, look, has caught Nibbs again on this lap now. Through this middle part of the lap, Michael Nibbs doesn't seem quite as confident, does he? Had that big moment through the S's on lap 1, and I think maybe that's just put him off from being quite as aggressive through there on subsequent laps. And so the cars behind get a bit closer to him than he'd like. Again, Brian Trott carries good speed out of the sunny out complex, goes to the inside into the left-hander, just nudges the side of Jack Brewer's car. That puts him on the outside for the penultimate corner. But Brewer slides across his bows and takes that line away from him. That puts Brewer now on the inside for the hairpin. Trott to the outside. Allwood's going to try and get through here if he can, but they're all searching for grip out of this final turn, because it's more important to come off that hairpin quickly than it is to go into it quickly. And they all actually come off it pretty evenly in the end. 5.5 minutes gone then. Track getting quicker here as well. The fastest lap now set by Steve Foden, a 1:47.7. The first man into the 47s, and he's going to the outside of not only Jason Greatrex, but also Brian Trott. Steve Foden trying to get 2 for 1. He settles in line just behind Trott in the end. So 1 position gain for Steve Foden. The 77 car is into 6th place now, and needs to be careful not to hand it straight back again, going through Hawthorne. He doesn't. He stays where he was. And they head back down the back straight again towards Tower Corner. Michael Nibbs in the lead. Jack Brewer staying with him, but not really showing his nose just yet. And Fraser Fennick is ahead of Brian Trott somehow, and also goes up the inside of Ollie Allwood for 3rd. So what on earth happened there to Brian Trott? He was definitely 4th going onto the back straight, but then suddenly Fraser Fennick was ahead of him, and Fraser was attacking for 3rd position. He didn't get it, so he stays 4th. Michael Nibbs is sideways again out of the S's. This time, nothing to do with the curb. He was just carrying a bit too much speed, I think, through the corner. And Jack Brewer then closing right back in on him. You don't know where to look in this group, do you? There is jockeying for position going on all the way throughout the top 9, really, because it's the top 9 cars in this battle pack, really. Adam Craig in 9th place has about a second in hand then over Stuart Simmons in 10th. Every one of these drivers is involved in a phenomenal battle, really. So Allwood then in 3rd, Fennick back into 4th now, Brian Trott 5th, Steve Foden 6th, Jason Greatrex 7th, 8th is Oliver Graham, the blue and orange car, 9th place there, the yellow car, the second yellow car in the group is Adam Craig. And they're all trailing Michael Nibbs, who, although he can't get away from them, is equally not coming under a huge amount of pressure, despite a couple of big moments, although I'll say that. And now it looks as though Jack Brewer's got a move going on the inside into Clervaux. Yes, he's fully alongside Michael Knibbs, and Jack Brewer is going to try and take the lead away. The grit might be on the outside line, but Brewer's got the commitment on the inside line, carries more speed through the turn and takes the lead away from Michael Knibbs, who's now got to try and get back into that first position. Remember, it was Brewer that started on pole. Michael Knibbs got past him on the run through the first corner on that outside line, but it was the inside that worked, interestingly, there for Brewer to get back into the head of the field. Changing outside the top 10 because Tim Dorr has lost a few places, but we're rightly keeping our eyes on this group of 9 cars battling at the front. The wet conditions are not affecting things at all here, really, in that we've still got this really close racing, arguably closer than yesterday's race, because by the end of the 20 minutes yesterday, the top 4 had pulled nearly 10 seconds on people like Fraser Fenwick and Ollie Graham 5th and 6th. But both of those drivers are well and truly in this pack now. I wonder whether now that Jack Brewer's out in front, they might start separating again. With the greatest will in the world, it looks like maybe Brewer's a little bit quicker than Knibbs, although Knibbs is going with him now. It's actually Allwood that's falling back in 3rd position. And Fenwick in 4th has his hands full of Brian Trott, who is probably not very happy that he's back in 5th place now. Even less happy, though, is Jordan Pimley, who's off, I think, at Tower. And he looks to have gone straight on there into the gravel, and he's dug the rear axle in. That car's going nowhere, and I think that's going to require a safety car, isn't it? Because if that ain't a dangerous position, then I don't know what is. So, safety car intervention possibly incoming. Steve Foden there tried to get up the inside of Brian Trott to no avail. Are they going to get the safety car out in time this time? Doesn't look like they will. New fastest lap set by Jack Brewer as well. So as soon as he got the lead, he's started to try and pull away. 3/4 of a second he is now ahead of Michael Knibbs in second. 1:47.247 is the new fastest lap of this race. Fastest lap yesterday in the dry conditions set by Jack Brewer was 1:40.2. So about 7 seconds, almost exactly 7 seconds off the pace that we saw in race number 1. No safety car yet, but presumably yellow flags down at Tower. Oh, Fraser Fenwick runs wide there through the dirt, and that's going to have held him up. Yes, yellow flags out though, so luckily for Fenwick, Brian Trott can't take advantage, but I'm not sure Trott's seen the yellow flags. He's going up the inside of Fraser Fenwick. This is absolutely going to get Brian Trott in trouble. You cannot overtake under yellow flags, and Brian Trott, as far as I can tell, has just done exactly that. He was darting from one side of Fraser Fenwick's car to the other at the time that he passed the yellow flag, so he obviously didn't spot it, but I think that might well get Brian Trott into some hot water afterwards. Jason Greatrex looking to the inside of Steve Foden. He's not going to get that done into Barcroft though. Right, I believe we can have a look at what happened there to Jordan Pimley at Tower Corner, because he... sorry, I beg your pardon. Well, what we can take another look at is the yellow flag overtake there for Brian Trott. You'll clearly see that the yellow flag is out. Look in the background, Trott goes to the inside. There will also be a yellow flag at the post just on the exit of Tower, you'd imagine. Well, you can't quite see it from that angle, but yeah, it looked as though he was overtaking there at a point of the circuit where you shouldn't be. Anyway, we'll let the clerk of the course decide what happened and who did what to who after the race. For now, the race continues, actually unimpeded. No safety car still. Is the car still in the gravel, or have they got it moved down at Tower Corner? Can't see from that angle. We'll see if we can piece it together when they get down to that part of the track next. We've got 9 minutes left in the race, and Jack Brewer is now getting away, isn't he? He's a full second ahead now of Michael Knibbs. Well, the car still very much in the gravel, and driver out of the car as well, so we're not going to get it moved without some outside assistance. Obviously, they've decided they can cover it with yellow flags for the time being, although I think the yellows have actually gone in now, going down into Tower Corner. Let's see, yeah, no yellow flags at that marshal's post, so they can overtake again into this part of the track. So that's going to be interesting, because Fraser Fenwick now is having to defend from Steve Foden, having already lost a position to Brian Trott there a lap ago. The drivers, of course, all know that the car is there, so I guess once they're aware of the hazard, they can be allowed to go racing. But in these conditions especially, if one car could end up going off there, so could another. A lot of damage could be done if someone slides off and hits that Jordan Pimley car in the gravel trap. So as the field goes through sunny, Steve Foden could not get any closer there to Fraser Fenwick as they go through that far part of the circuit. You've got Jason Greatrex closing on the pair of them as well. And into the complex they go. There's Jack Brewer, second place Michael Nibbs, Allwood third. They're all concertinaing back together, and this lot couldn't get any closer, could they? Fraser Fennick with Steve Foden and Jason Greatrex. Greatrex looking to the inside, but Foden covers it. Ollie Graham and Adam Craig are the two at the back of that group, although Craig in the yellow card just becoming a bit disjointed from this group. Also into the top 10 now, by the way, is Matt Pollard ahead of Stuart Simmons. Side by side for second now. Ollie Allwood to the outside of Michael Nibbs as they head to Clervaux Corner, and Brian Trott just behind these two is the first driver into the 46s. He's just had a new fastest lap of the race. Nibbs holds on to second position, but now Brian Trott tries to join in the fun as well. A three-way fight developing here, but it's playing beautifully into the hands of Jack Brewer, who's getting further and further away now at the front of the group. Windscreen wiper still on, even though it's not actually raining anymore because of the spray being kicked up at certain parts of the track. Allwood thought about going to the inside of Nibbs, wasn't close enough to do it though. So number 63 car of Ollie Allwood, last year's runner-up in the championship, just 10 points shy of Joe Wiggin, who took the title in 2020 and now has moved on to race other things, leaving the door open for someone else to come and take the crown. And I think I'm right in saying there isn't a single driver on this grid now who has previously won the championship, which actually is a good thing because it shows that the MX-5 racing ladder within the BRSCC is working, because what we're kind of supposed to do is win this championship and then move on to the Super Cup. And that is what a lot of drivers have done, even those that haven't yet won this championship. They've moved on to the Super Cup, as Michael Nibbs has done, but he made a mistake there, ran wide out of Sunny, and Ollie Allwood is now fully alongside him. He's got, in theory, the grippier side of the road now through the complex, and look, he's able to carry so much more speed through the corner, and he chops across in front of Michael Nibbs to take second place. Another little mistake there from Nibbs, who is really working hard behind the wheel, and now Brian Trott pulls alongside him. Behind, Jason Greatrex is steaming up the inside of Steve Foden, and, well, that's one way of doing it. Elbow Steve Foden out the way. So no change for third position, but there will have been a change for sixth, I think, in the background, because, yes, there is Greatrex now ahead of Foden into sixth position. And I tell you what, Adam Craig being caught by Matt Pollard here. Matt Pollard started 10th, so he's lost quite a bit of ground at the start, but he's really coming on strong now. He's actually almost on the tail of that second group of leaders, isn't he? Ollie Allwood, by the way, now that he's in second place, is still not quite able to match Jack Brewer's pace, so half a second slower than him that time. Matt Pollard is going quickly, though, because he's just set the fastest lap at 1:46.7, so the car that's in 10th position, number 55, is on an absolute mission right now, Matt Pollard. He's almost caught the yellow car of Adam Craig, and in fact, he is with Adam Craig now, so we could be about to see a change there for ninth. We could also see a change for second, though, because Michael Nibbs, having lost that second place to Allwood on the previous lap, is rather keen to get it back. Couldn't get it at Tower, but looks now all of a sudden quicker than Allwood. It's amazing how, especially in these kind of conditions, a driver who looked all at sea when he was at the front of the group can suddenly find pace once you've got someone ahead of him to use as a reference. You can kind of copy their lines, copy their braking points. You can learn a lot from following a car that was going quicker than you, and Michael Nibbs seems to be doing that, although this part of the circuit he is not enjoying. Very sideways again through Sunny in and Sunny out. And so Brian Trott did catch him, but then seemed to really back off again coming off the corner. Through the complex goes Allwood in second position. Are we going to see a change behind? Yeah, Matt Pollard, look on the tail of Adam Craig, look. And Adam Craig holding on to that ninth place, but Matt Pollard really starting to ask all of the right questions of him. And if he gets him quickly, he might have the time to catch the next group ahead, or at least the next car ahead. Ollie Graham, out to the hairpin they go. There is Matt Pollard, gets a good exit from the corner. We've got Stuart Simmons right behind them as well. So this is for 9th, 10th and no, it's not Stuart Simmons, excuse me, it's actually Zach Oates in the number 145 AB Motorsport car. Stuart Simmons' teammate. Simmons is the next car behind, but he's 3.7 seconds further back in 12th place. 3.25 minutes to go, which means I reckon 2 more laps, including this one, will get confirmation that it's going to be touch and go as to whether we get an extra lap in here. Yesterday's race, we had 12 laps of racing. This is lap 10. But of course, the pace is significantly slower today because of the rain, so this could be the penultimate lap that we're on. We'll know by the end of it, depending on how much time is left on the countdown. It's at 2 minutes 45 seconds now. Ollie Allwood, P2. not getting away from Michael Nibbs, who's shaken off the attentions of Brian Trott now, actually, hasn't he? In 4th position. There go Fenwick, Greatrex and Foden, still in the same order, 5th, 6th and 7th. Of course, anywhere from that point backwards could become the front row for race number 3, so that's going to be worth keeping our eye out for later on today. There's the leader, Jack Brewer. Second place battle raging there, and Brian Trott's gone up the inside of Michael Nibbs. He's into 3rd now. So Brian Trott, he had that really brilliant progress early on, and then the middle part of the race, he almost lost a bit of pace. And now here he is back into a podium position. Now, the leaders are about to cross the start-finish line. I reckon they've got time for 2 more laps. It's going to be touch and go. They're lapping in the 1:47s, and they cross the line with 1:49 on the clock. They might choose to throw the checkered flag lap early, but I don't know, unfortunately, whether this is the last lap. Adam Craig has lost outlook to Matt Pollard, and now Michael Nibbs is coming back at Brian Trott, who's always going to put him in the gravel through the first corner, but Nibbs keeps his foot in it. Brilliant racing. Michael Nibbs just finds the grip from somewhere. He was in the gravel is where he found the grip, and manages to carry the momentum through Hawthorne and get 3rd place back. Nicely done. Michael Nibbs then back into that podium place, having lost it a couple of corners previously. So the order now, Brewer leads the way, Allwood 2nd, with Michael Nibbs and Brian Trott alternating that 3rd position. Then it's Fenwick 5th, Greatrex 6th, Foden 7th, Ollie Graham is still 8th, but Matt Pollard is 9th now. Both he and Zach Oates have got ahead of Adam Craig, so Craig, unfortunately, after a strong start to the race, is now back to 11th place, still 1 place higher than he started, because he's got himself ahead of Owen Mills at the start, and Owen is 2 seconds behind him, still in 12th place. Little exchange there between Nibbs and Trott has kind of let Allwood get away a bit now. He was 8/10 ahead of them at the start of the lap, but they're closing back in again, ironically, at the part of the circuit that Nibbs seemed to be struggling at earlier in the race. Now he's actually reeling in the 2nd place driver. That's some 2.5 seconds behind the leaders. Now, is it going to be checkered flag this time? We think, well, we're waiting to see whether it's a flag or a last lap board waiting for them. It's going to be really close. There is a last lap board waiting, I believe, but they may choose to throw the checkered if they don't get there in time. Let's see, out of the final corner, and yeah, looks like the last lap board is going to go out. Oh, yellow flags. Why was there a yellow flag there at the last corner? That's why, and that is the 85 of Anthony Pettigrew, who's had a spin. He was about to go a lap down, and the 85 car, the close racing car, unfortunately, has come a cropper in the slippery conditions, possibly trying to get out of the way of the leaders, who are now on the last lap. So Jack Brewer, yes, he got to the line with 5 seconds to spare, so actually they had a bit more in hand than I thought. Last lap then begins for Brewer, and he is still comfortably ahead of Ollie Allwood. The real question is who will be second, third and 4th in the race. Allwood has got Michael Nibbs right back on his tail. Nibbs just put in a personal best lap as well, 1:47.416, and you can see that Ollie Allwood is feeling the need now to defend his 2nd place. Got another back marker just ahead, which will be that's going to be number 53, isn't it, I think? Jonathan Fieldsend, who stays out of the way. We've lost to the pit lane earlier on, Tom Mallet. So Mallet and, well, I think Mallet might be the only retire. No, Mallet and Pimley are going to be the 2 retirements. After Pimley's issues earlier on, but Jack Brewer heads through Sunny Inn, and he is now just a few corners from home. Still Allwood, I think, in 2nd position. Try and get a look at them through the final sequence of corners as well. But for Jack Brewer, this is an ideal start to the season with 2 race wins from 2. But from race number 3, we'll have to wait and see whether he's able to make it the hat-trick. Not very many people have been able to win all 3 races in the same weekend. Joe Wiggin did manage it last year. And I'm pretty sure Tom Roach has done it at one point or another in the past, but it doesn't happen all that often. Jack Brewer comes out of the final hairpin, then comes across the start-finish line, and it's 2 from 2 for the number 93 car. A victory at Croft in race number 2. The checkered flag is unfurled and waved for Jack Brewer. 2nd goes to Allwood, 3rd for Nibbs, 4th Brian Trott. Fraser Fenwick is 5th ahead of Jason Greatrex and Steve Foden. Ollie Graham just fended off the charging Matt Pollard at the end, and then it's going to be Zach Oates from Owen Mills, and Adam Craig did fall behind Owen Mills then on the last lap, so Craig's pace at the end was really quite slow, wasn't it, actually? I don't know if he had some sort of an issue, but he was about 3 seconds a lap slower than he had been over those last few laps. Maybe the wet setup that he'd been running with. had been not worked quite so well as the track got a bit drier towards the end. Not sure, but anyway, at the front of the field there was no stopping Jack Brewer. Jack Brewer taking the victory by 2.5 seconds, beating his record from yesterday when he won by 1.8 seconds. Given how close it was in the early stages of the race, it's fair to say that doesn't do the race full justice, does it? Because for the first half of the race, really, the top 9 cars were absolutely nose to tail.
I have to agree with Andy. Despite the conditions, another mega race, even closer than it was yesterday. But whatever happens, come rain or shine, still the same race winner. And it's this man right here with another big smile on his face, which is Jack Brewer. We said it to one driver earlier on, but this is like buses. You wait for one victory and you got 2 come along at one weekend.
I was just about to say it's like buses. Well, the car was fantastic. I was panicking a little bit before the start because obviously it was hailing, and I was constantly on to Tucker going, "What are we doing with the dampers? What are we doing with the dampers?" And then he sorted everything out, and the car was. I got a bit of a slow start, and then after that, the car just kept getting better and better, and it just felt amazing. So hats off to Tucker and the boys. They did a great job in perhaps the worst circumstances you can have before a race. So yeah, very, very, very happy with that. 2 out of 2, can't complain.
I know you've worked hard over the winter to get yourself in the right frame of mind, the car in the right shape as well. So just all coming together at the start of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, my dad puts in a hell of a lot of work behind the scenes. He does a brilliant job on the car, and this is basically all his work. So yeah, he deserves this as much as me.
I guess the tough question is 3 out of 3.
We'll give it a go. There's no harm in trying, and we'll see from there. But yeah, I'm happy with 2, and we'll just keep it consistent in the 3rd, hopefully.
Well, you're in the best position possible. So again, well done, great drive, and we'll see you for race 3 later on.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Right, let's bring. Where's our 2 drivers here? Let's bring Ollie over for 2nd place. And there's a little bit more of a smile on your face this time. You 3rd yesterday, 2nd today. You're moving up. Moving up.
There's a little bit of progression there. This was a complete unknown. We haven't been here for 4 years in the wet, so just made it up as I went along, really. Jack clearly had it all dialed in, was driving really, really well. Just managed to get get one over on Nibs there for 2nd place. To be honest, just glad to survive. Really, it was pretty hairy out there at times. But surprising how much grip there is. The tyres were really, really good, and like you can take a really traditional line rather than a traditional wet line, which was a bit unusual, but yeah, it was great. Team did an amazing job, so big thanks to AB Motorsport getting the car ready, and we got 1 more to go. Let's see if we can get up on the front step.
You probably know what's coming, but 3rd in race 1, 2nd in race 2. Truly, if we go on progression here, we know what the result's going to be in race 3.
Yeah, I think the gap's quite large though, so we'll do our best. Yeah, but all good, thanks.
Well, top drivers always, Oliver. Great to see you on for good form, and we'll see you for race 3, fingers crossed.
Cool, cheers, thanks.
Good stuff. And let's bring Michael over for race 3. Have a bit of a sit down before he has a chat to us, because I think sit down was probably warranted, because you look like you were, again, working really hard out there and pressuring for a lead in the early stages.
Yeah, I haven't driven in the wet, before. I've done 3 or 4 races, so it's all a bit new to me. So I just got out in front and tried my best, but they were too quick.
But again, like we said yesterday, you look on good form, the car looks in superb form, so you really seem to be properly tuned in for this season already.
Yeah, I hope so, I really do. It's a bit of a surprise, so loving it.
And you're quite a busy guy this season, because you're doing both Championship and Super Cups. So I mean, as someone has to do both, probably the answer is that you don't, but how do you handle having to do 2 different cars, 2 different setups on the same circuit on the same weekend?
It's quite tricky, but I think once everything's dialed in, and you can just jump from one to the other, and you're away. The more track time, I think, the more experience you've got, so the easier it becomes.